75 to 105, that's a lot of golf, a lot of wine, and Netflix movies, and travel. I need an income stream that I know I'm not going to outlive. This was the only game in town until they changed the rules. And they said, now you can put these on indexed annuities. I'm going to try and do this quickly. This is how this works. There's a phantom account growing at the same time my real money grows. So there's two numbers growing simultaneously. My guaranteed lifetime income account, which is just going to be used to turn on my income down the road and factor in how much income I get. It's like Social Security. The longer I wait, the more they'll give me. Then there's the cash side. This is the side that that'll perform like these things have and outperform the market. If the market keeps doing what I think it's going to do, actually it won't matter. Point is, so two numbers grow simultaneously. So I start out with 220,000 on both sides. My cash grows at whatever rate, depending on how well the market does. So let's say maybe it does 4, 5, we'll be conservative. 8 years down the road, I've gone from 220 to 320. On the income side, though, they promise it's going to be 8%. Every year, no matter what the market does, even if the market goes down, I'll get 8% per year on the income side only. I can't spend this except in monthly checks or annual checks. Make sense? Okay. This one I can go take and buy a motorhome. That one I can turn into a lifetime income stream. But I never give away access to the money, and if I die, they can't keep it. They have to give it to my beneficiaries. So watch how this works. Same two boxes. Everything on the left is actual cash growth. I don't know if it'll do 3% a year, 5%, or 7%, whatever the market ends up doing. So I threw all three in there. And on this side is that income account growing at guaranteed 8%. In the old days, if I was in an annuity, let's say we did 5. And 8 years down the road, I got to 309,000. I could say, all right, annuitize my contract from this number, and they'd go, okay, you get 6% of that number per year. Go with God. And they'd start sending me checks, but I could never go back and touch the money and would not grow from this point on, and if I die, they keep the rest. The only bet I have to win is if I outlive it. And I've spent so much and lived so long that now they're paying me some of their own money. Okay, that was the old days. Now, because of this imaginary account, at the same point in time, I can say 8 years out, I want lifetime income. Ooh, look, I get $404,000 to work from instead of 309, or if the market was bad, maybe 265, maybe a little better, maybe a little worse. I know going in today, 8 years down the road, I'm going to get 24 grand a year because 6% of 400,000 is a little more than 6% of 300,000. So my paycheck will be 24,000 a year or 2,000 a month, however I want to take it. But I keep getting credits on the cash side when the index goes up too. So not only am I spending money that's coming to me, I'm growing the money back in the up years. Anytime I want to walk, I can say, go ahead, you can turn the income off. I'm taking my 275 and I'm moving to Maui. Or I'm going to finally buy Tesla stock, or whatever it is. I can still go back and get the cash anytime I want. Concept makes sense? Easy enough to understand the two different account values? Okay. Questions?
What's the 10% bonus?
Oh, some of the companies offer bonuses for several different reasons. Some of the old annuities, the older kind where you had to annuitize the contracts and you didn't have this option, have surrender penalties on them. So you might have a 6, 7, 8% surrender fee, and if you have to pay a fee to get out of that contract, some of the companies will actually pay you a bonus to cover that loss. Does that make sense? We're still. Yeah. No. Oh, that's what I was thinking of. They also changed that rule. It used to be they had an unlimited level of fees they could charge. So I might go into this contract, and if I leave in the first, let's say 8 years out, I could still have a 12 or 15% fee on the account. They changed that. The fees cannot start any higher than 10% in the first year, and they have to go down by at least 1% over every year. Well, so now you don't get stuck with those long-term. So when the people are, when those naysayers are going, ooh, you don't want to get hit with the fees that are in it, that's actually no longer a problem.
Yeah, those fees are only applicable if you walk away.
Oh, that's true.
That's not
And remember,
yearly annual management fees.
that's a
Those
good
are-
point.
you know,
Yeah, there's no,
Those are, the reason why they have those is because whenever you buy these, the insurance company would have to buy a long-term bond with bonds. So when you surrender it, then they have to sell that, and they pass
Yeah.
it to you. So we always, and we've been doing this for many, many years, and the biggest problem in this industry is always the agent when it comes to that, when it comes to surrender fees and all that stuff. You gotta take care of your client. If this is all you got, you don't put all your money in here, right? Only the one that you wanna make sure that you understand that you're not gonna touch it for a number of years, or you only take out 10% a year, then it doesn't hurt you a bit at all, strategically. So, in any field, the question is the person that's showing you the product is watching over their back, or you?
Or yours.
Yours. That's always, I don't have any issues with any of my clients, because they know the detail. This is
Yeah.
how this works. This will work this way, this will work this way, and then make a choice from there.
ready? Did I see a hand? Okay, skip it, pretend you didn't see him. He scares me. So here's how competitive these have become. Because the insurance companies, after the dust settled after the crash of 2008, 2009, the insurance companies were the only ones left with cash. Because insurance companies can't carry any debt, zero. So when all the banks were running and scrambling and going out of business, the ones that could go to the insurance companies and get a loan were the ones that survived, if you couldn't get a government bailout. So the interest that got paid back to the insurance companies about tripled them in value since 2008, 2009. And before that, they were already bigger than all of the oil and bank industries combined. So the insurance companies now are bigger and more cash rich than ever. And all the baby boomers are putting large chunks of their money into safe investments like these. So every year they get more and more competitive. So I'll show you. Since they started this and they brought out the income rider thing, notice there's more columns now. Now there's a long-term care component where I still have the same guaranteed income stream. Notice this one I play out further. I start out at age 71. If I took the income then, I would have a payout factor of 5.6. If I wait a year, it goes to 5.7, 5.8, 5.96, and it levels out at this company. So let's look. My 200,000, 8 years down the road, I can get 20,000 in income for the rest of my life. But if I ever need long-term care, they'll double it for as long as I need care, or until I get better, or until I pass away. And there's no underwriting, right? There's one question is like, are you currently receiving long-term care of any kind? And if I am, then I don't qualify. But that's how much competition there is that now they're actually saying, here, look, we'll give you extra money to help you with long-term care needs. On top of, there are always terminal illness and nursing home waivers within these contracts anyway. So as soon as I know I've got a terminal illness or I'm going to be confined to a nursing home, I can get out of the contract if I need to. Okay. Oh, and it covers in-home care. I don't have to be in confinement like a lot of the long-term care insurance plans do. Most long-term care traditional plans, you have to be in care for 180 days out of the last 280 without the ability, they won't let you leave, basically. You gotta be locked up before they'll pay you back. Okay, questions? Move on. Here's the point. Safety versus risk. Remember that timeline? Short term, little reward, little risk. Long term, a lot of potential reward, a lot of risk. And then in the middle is where we like to work. This is one of the ways that we do that. So make a little mark here at number 1 if you want to talk about allocations, how many eggs do I put in which baskets, the index annuities in particular because those have become so popular. And here's the number 2 thing we do. We design income streams. Here's why. 5 years, 2020, 5 years ago, the Wall Street Journal went out and they did a survey of 50,000 of their subscribers across the nation in their 50s. That was a requirement. So all these people are working, most of them are professional or executives, they subscribe to the Wall Street Journal, they're in their 50s, they're doing well. 200 different questions. The one I'm focusing on is, when you retire, will you spend more or less money than you're spending while you're working? 90% of those said, I'll spend way less money when I retire. Is that true? No. Didn't take you very long to think about that, did it? No. And it is, if I could stay home on Amazon Prime, I'll tell you, I'd need another job. So our income decisions back in our 40s, 50s, and 60s were off. Because now when we retire, our income spending actually goes up usually about 15 to 25% the first year. We usually get the conversation about 12 to 36 months into retirement, where they say, we need another 800 or 1200 or 1600 or whatever a month in income. So we have to look at the assets and turn those assets or an asset into an income stream. So we do that second most of all the things we do. Here are the goals. If I can design a new income stream for you, it better be dependable. I want it to be as dependable as your veterans benefits, your alimony, your lottery winnings, your sort of social security check, so that you know how much money you're going to be getting next month and next year, not having to worry about, if the market's up, I get to spend some. If the market's down, I don't. To me, that's not an income stream. I want tax savings or tax-free, either growth or income or both, and then I want to get a raise. So if I'm like grandma and I make it to 105 and I don't get a raise over 45 years of retirement, it means the quality of life goes down considerably. It means I got to start drinking bad wine and playing bad golf courses. Not going to do that. So we looked at that lifetime income rider that's now available on other things besides variable annuities. That's one way we do it. Here's another way, through insurance plans. For people that have already accumulated some cash within a life insurance policy, you can take that money out tax-free in a guaranteed lifetime income stream. Sometimes you can just take it out as an income stream. But it can be tax-free, it can be dependable, it can even be designed to go up in value year over year. So you get all three. Here's something you don't know about life, or some of us don't know about life insurance policies. You can sell your life insurance policy. A lot of people have insurance policies they don't need for the rest of their lives. I'll use our client Shirley as an example. Shirley was a rather wealthy widow. Her husband died rather young. She had 2 daughters. She took out an $800,000 life insurance policy, and basically it was just to cover them in case she passed before the girls got out of college, got married, got stable. They finally did. She said, I don't need this policy anymore. I'm going to just give it back to the insurance company. The insurance company said, we'd be happy to have it. We'll give you $40,000 for it. Stop making your $20,000 payments a year. She said, okay, I'm going to do that. And we said, no, don't do that. Let us broker it for you, because investors buy life insurance policies, always have. We got her 5 offers, and the highest one was $110,000 from Berkshire Hathaway. By the way, that's an offshoot of Berkshire Hathaway. But she made $70,000 more than the insurance company was going to give her. You want to know why the insurance company would offer her $40,000 to stop making payments? Because they take over the payments and become the owner of the life insurance policy, and when Shirley dies, they get the $800,000 tax-free. Pretty cool, huh? Well, Warren Buffett knows this. He goes, I'll offer you $110,000. And then, sure enough, so Berkshire Hathaway becomes the owner of the policy, and they'll get the $800,000 when she dies. So here's what changed, because that's always been true. We now can do little slices of investing in those life insurance policies that have been purchased. So in 2010, they changed the regulations, but it took years for them to put this in a place where there's a regulated investment category built around us little guys buying slices of those life insurance policies, like Shirley's. Have you heard of this? Some of you. Okay. Watch how this works. I think this is in your, that's okay. Unless we have a 12-year-old here in the room to help, we can't make sure that the technology's good. So watch how this works. The owner sells their insurance policy. Investors come in, I'm going to make this real quick. Investors come in and they pay her, but then they also say, I'm not just going to sit on this and wait until Shirley dies. I'm going to take half of the death benefit, slice it up, and sell it to little investors for maybe as small as $10,000 per share. We'll call it shares. Okay? The SEC said, yep, that's fine as long as we can oversee it. And the Life Insurance Commission said, yep, that's fine as long as we can oversee it. And then the Department of Corporate Ethics or some other said, okay, as long as we can oversee it. So it's the most heavily regulated investment ever in the world because of the different entities behind it. But the target return rate is 10 to 14%, which is on the little blue sheet that Isaac just handed out to you. Here's how we figure that. If I was to take $50,000, go down to a bank, and they said, Greg, we'll give you 10% compound interest without paying taxes every year, come back in 5 years, I get 10% per year. 5 years later, my $50,000 will be worth $80,525. How did we get 5? Why did we pick 5 years? Because this person has 5 years to live, based on 2 independent medical reviews from companies that just do this for a living. They just estimate how long you're going to live. Okay, so I get 10% per year, compound interest, regardless of when that person passes away. If they pass away tomorrow, they go skydiving 18 months from now, doesn't matter. My $50,000 is going to return a profit or an asset return of $80,525. Make sense? It's the only investment we know of where you know exactly how much you're going to get, you just don't know exactly when. But we have a really good idea. Because when this started, 2010, 10 years ago, there were about 20 of these companies estimating how long people would live. There's now about 5, because the others weren't good enough to stay in business. And then the more accurate ones got more and more of the business, and eventually the little ones just fell away. So we've watched that the people actually are, I almost said dying when they're supposed to. That's not the best way to describe this. Dying as we expect they will, based on the medical reviews. And we get to see the full medical reviews like this one. This guy's got hyperlipidemia, hyperdysplasia, arthritis, Lyme disease, leukemia. None of the people that sell their policies in these investment class portfolios are going to do that. They're all over 80. Wait, there's a couple that are under, aren't there? There's been a couple like 75. But they're really ill. They're really ill. Okay. So no matter when, I don't have to put any more than my $50,000 in, except, let's say we get to year 6 or 7, and that person's still alive. They started taking their vitamins and eating kale and jogging in the morning, and they're doing great. Good for them. They could come back and say, Greg, you got to come up with another $2,013 to stay in the game. Do you want to do that, or do you want to sell your shares to the other investors? And then I can make the decision. We also don't recommend putting all of your money into one asset. We spread it out, which is why this is in the income section, because in a perfect scenario, we would have a 1-year, 2-year, 3-year, 4-year, 5-year life expectancy. So about every 12 months, we would get a dividend, for lack of a better word, paid back to us. We could spend some of that profit, a predictable amount, and we can roll the rest back in, which will give us raises every time we do that. But we get an income stream that we can kind of put back into motion that's built on a 10% per year return, but they've actually been performing at about 14% because they underestimate when the person will die. And so when they actually pass away a little bit early, the returns have been slightly higher. Concept make sense?
I don't know if you mentioned, but the person basically that are here, they don't, and you can also get paid without them passing away. If another financial institution actually buys that portfolio, you get your payout for it. So it's almost the same thing as not getting paid, but if you had a loan with WAMU, or no longer here, let's say Wells Fargo, and the next thing you know, 6 months later, you have a new mortgage company that you have to pay, it's the same thing basically. So if somebody over there offers that and buy that whole chunk, you'll get paid.
That's true.
That happens.
We had on one of this, I have to update this list because these are actual policies that our clients have had since we started doing this about 4 years ago when we got in the game. There have been 3, 4 more pass away. and pay out since then. But this one here with the asterisks from Lincoln Life, that one never got to fruition. We had one client in that, she was only in it for 60 days, and then another company came in and bought up all of the investment assets and paid out the profits, so they could take that policy and remarket it down their distribution channel somehow. So our client got her full payout within 3 months because of that. That just shows how competitive the space has become. Because think about it, you've now got to find somebody with a multi-million-dollar death benefit that's over the age of 80 that is extremely ill that doesn't want the life insurance anymore. They're not on every street corner. Which has also made selling your life insurance policy a lot more competitive as well. 5 years ago when we did 7 years ago we did Shirley's policy, if you had a term life policy, we wouldn't be able to help you. I've gotten 2 term life policies brokered for over $100,000 in the last 6 months, because that's how competitive these investors have become. Because of the safety. Think about this. This is the number one thing that I like about this is safety first. It doesn't matter what happens with their politics, what the tax laws are, what the price of gold is, if we find life on Mars. Nothing's going to change that these people are already going to pass away from the diseases they already have. So it's not tied to any portion of the market, which is why large investors like Warren Buffett are, in fact, Berkshire is the number one purchaser of life insurance policies in the world. But there are a lot of little ones. The city of Santa Ana has something like 45 life insurance policies on their books, just growing because they're so safe. Okay, before I move along. Oh, let me just offer this. Go ahead.
What are the tax consequences of a buyout versus a death benefit?
It's ordinary income either way, because and thank you. My first question was, this is tax-free, isn't it? Because that's life insurance payout. And it is. It's tax-free to Berkshire Hathaway, but by the time it then gets down to us, it's a dividend on an investment. But it's always just ordinary income. There's no capital gains. Here's one thing that I'll offer. Like at the end of last year, I moved $50,000 out of my corporate 401k account over to this, because you can put IRA money into this as well. And when somebody dies, it isn't a tax hit unless you want the money. They'll just keep it in an escrow account and keep it rolling so that you don't have to pay taxes. But so I spread about $10,000 over 5 different policies, almost this well. If one of these people were to live an extra year and they were to call me and say, Greg, I need you to come up with my highest premium call would be $600. So it's not like there's a huge risk here. And I bet out of those 5 over the next 5 years, one of them probably will live a little bit longer, but one of them will die a little bit earlier too, which will mean my 10% in return on that one goes up to about 14 or 16%, which offsets. Okay, did I skip anything?
Well, with my clients, I think there's only one the past 5 years, but the company haven't asked money yet. So they usually have a buffer for about a year and a half before they the competition is so great right now that if one company actually asks for money, that kind of ruins them. So they're very careful with it. So
that's true.
Yeah, so that's the good thing about it.
Be careful of the companies that you do invest with. If you're looking at a portfolio that has a bundled group of life policies together, kind of like a mutual fund, I would stay away from that. We've looked into 2 of those, and you just can't do the actuarial numbers on the rules of large numbers to get a good feel for when the people will actually pass away. And they haven't, those new types of policies have only been out for about 3 years, so we don't know because nobody's died yet.
Right.
But I would be careful of anybody doing that. Just a quick comparison. If I put this into a 3-year life expectancy policy over a 10-year span, I'm also including the crash in 2008, just so that you can see what happens when there's a dip. 250,000 that followed the market would have gone up to 364 over 10 years, and over any 10-year span, life settlements on a 3-year renew at 10% only would go from 250 to 546. So I do about 180,000 better with no market risk whatsoever. Okay, I'm gonna move along. No, it's still ordinary income tax, but I don't mind at 10 to 14% per year without paying the taxes each year. I'll take it. But remember, this is called retirement income. The number 2 thing we do is help people with their income streams, or help people improve the income streams they already have. So make a little mark at number 2 and we can talk about income, where to get it. Tax savings. Did everybody get their taxes done already? Somebody did? Did you really? That's our first this year. Congratulations. Well, the rest of you can have dessert too, but you have to promise to get it done next week. Every year the IRS comes out with a new form, and I'm not sure why, but last year they had this one and it had a cutesy name, the 1040 Easy to Do, and if you weren't itemizing, you could use this form to file your taxes. It was just 2 lines. How much money did you make? Just send it to us. I don't recommend using that kind of form, and all kidding aside, this is all I want you to remember about taxes. It's an old slide. Back when we started this, CDs were paying 4%. But imagine that you could find 4% on a CD and you had $100,000 in it. Here's the interest growth that you would get. So the pie chart would all be this big blueberry pie chart full of $4,000, except the IRS then would go, I'm sorry, Greg, CDs are taxable. They come in with a big old cake knife and then look at whatever your tax bracket is and they take at least that much or more. Here's the problem, especially in retirement. I'm not working anymore, I'm not collecting a paycheck. Every one of those dollars that leaves hurts. Hurts more than when I was working. Because every one of those tax dollars first won't compound for me next year. So I earned 4% on this money. All the money that's left will earn another 4% next year, but these dollars won't. So wherever I can, plus they won't buy me long-term care, they won't help my grandchild get into Yale, whatever. I need to keep every one of those dollars in my account wherever I possibly can. Make sense? Very simple. It's one of the reasons we use index annuities, because they grow tax deferred on regular old money. It's not IRA money. But here's a new one that most financial planners or retirement planners don't know how to do, won't even know how to hook you up with, but it helps us a lot, has for the last few years, but it also now replaces that stretch inherited IRA thing they took away, where you can't leave your IRA to your 10-year-old great-grandchild anymore. You can do it through this. So watch how this gets rid of taxes. Anybody that itemizes can do this, but it really helps the most if you have a pending tax hit somewhere that you need to get relief on. So a couple examples is we have a client who put about $15,000 into Apple stock about 12, 13 years ago. It's worth several $100,000 now, all gain. He doesn't want to pay the capital gains, but he needs the money. So he's going to do this strategy. I'll walk you through one. It involves using a 501(c) corporation and donating money to them. The IRS then says, if you're going to do that, we'll allow you to get an income stream back from them and a huge tax credit you can apply elsewhere. So watch how this works. When we met her husband had been passed away for about 8 months. He was a dentist, and she, after he passed, decided she was not seeing her kids enough. She had 5 daughters, they lived all around the country, no one near California. Said, I want $2,000 a month income, just deposited into my bank account every month, and that's going to be my travel money. I also want to take my husband's IRA. There was $179,000 left in this one IRA. I want to turn it into a Roth, but I don't want to pay the taxes to make that happen. So watch what we did. We use a company in Nashville, Tennessee called Legacy Tree Foundation. And they're the ones that have the 501(c) corporation. That's Kevin and Nan and Kevin's wife. We donated $700,000 to this charity. Now, it says you choose the charity. You can also get a small, about 10% of whatever the initial investment is. So she could give, and she did, $70,000 of this actually goes as a donation, and she picked her husband's dental college. And they actually got to keep the 70 grand. But watch what happens with this 501(c). Now, for the pleasure of getting to use your money, they can invest some of that, grow it, and they do charitable works with it. But they also, at the same time, have to do an income stream back to the client. So for her $700,000 gift, she gets $2,400 back a month for 30 years. If she dies, somebody else will get it. They die, somebody else will get it. Somebody's getting a check for 30 years. And it's tax preferred. Because it's also it's along the same lines as an annuitization, which means about, say roughly 75% of this is tax-free. At the same time, the government says, well, because you were such a nice person using this 501(c), we're going to give you a tax credit of $59,000 that you can apply to any kind of a tax hit you have. So she gets $865,000 back, or someone does, for 30 years. That's more than the initial $700,000 she put in, plus she gets a tax break of $59,000 that she applied to her husband's IRA, which turned that into non-IRA money in the Roth, and now that will grow tax-free and come out tax-free for the rest of her life. Make sense? Concept? Have you heard of this before? No. Most people haven't. Now, there's a couple other ways to do this. One's through a corporation, another is through an LLC. Those are a pain in the neck compared to this process, and there's no charitable contribution. So we've shied away from those. Another one we had was a dentist had 7 children, 8 pieces of property here in Southern California. Another dentist here in Southern California. He didn't want the kids fighting over the different pieces of property. He he donated one of the pieces of property to the charity for valued at $1 million. They gave him an income stream back that he used to fund a $10 million life insurance policy with his 7 kids as the heirs, and enough cash from that to go to a trust to pay the taxes on the sales of the 7 different properties that he had. Brilliant. But, oh, that's right, it also created about I can't remember what the tax credit was, but it was enough to get his $500,000 IRA converted to a Roth with no tax on it all at once. So there's a lot of different ways you can use this. So let's look at they took away the stretch IRA. So she could have this income stream go to her, and then she could have it go to a trust after she passes away, and the trust could have a bequest that then pushes that down to her grandchildren, her great-grandchildren, or whatever, for at least 30 years. So we've taken at least a big chunk of the inherited stretch and put it back. Yes? Did I miss it? Go ahead, sorry.
So that is not tax-free, the $2,400 a month?
It's not tax-free, but it is tax-preferred. Meaning that they don't see it all as 100% income. It used to be the only thing you ever saw that on was annuitized income streams. If I annuitized an asset, then the dollar values that came to me would be applied based on my age and my state's exclusion ratios. And that's what this is. So like, let's say, I don't remember how old she was, but about 75% of this would be taxable. Would be tax-free. And then the other 30% or 25 would
The $700,000, was that